Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a Necromancer 101 guide for everything that you need to know about Necromancer in Season 13. This is the first time I've done a YouTube video that I've kind of edited and uploaded from the live stream, so if you have any input on something I did wrong or anything I could do better, make sure and let me know. I would really appreciate that. So, yeah, in this video, I'm going to be featuring BDP, who, if I look right now, he's a clanmate of mine, and he's number 2 on the seasonal Necromancer hardcore leaderboard. So, and he's barely behind number 1. He's a very good player, very knowledgeable, very good guy. So, if you're into Necromancer, I think you'll like this guide. So, let's just dive right into it. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, BDP. Live in Alaska. Gaming my whole life. I ain't gonna stop. Playing mostly Necro this season. Traditionally, I played a bit more Wizard, but this season I'm gonna really focus on Necro. Though I did just find a primal Wizard sword, like literally an hour ago, so that kind of spurred my interest back with Wizard again. So we'll see how it goes.
Nice. And did you ever play any other games, like super competitively, or?
Uh, once I got into PC gaming in high school, it was probably Counter-Strike and Diablo 2 were my main things. Those more or less been playing my whole life. And
Nice.
yeah, so I played a little bit of WoW, but mostly Diablo series and then some Path of Exile. I played Diablo in vanilla for a bit and then came back right when season started. Played till about season 5 and then mostly played Path of Exile and Counter-Strike. I came back in season 12 to try out the Necro, the expansion, and I really like what they did with the Necro class. It's very unique, very different than the other ones. I like Necro and Diablo 2 as well.
Cool, thanks. And first off, before we get into the builds and stuff, what's your kind of general thoughts this season on Necro and like how fun they are to play? And I know you went over a little bit, in your last answer, but how they fit in the meta. Do you think it's good, bad, etc., like that type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean Necro's super important this season. It's a mirror of last season, obviously, so not a whole lot's changed as far as that. I did not play season 11 when they first came out, so I'm a little less burnt out than some of the other people who have had to play 3 seasons straight of Rathma runs. So I still enjoy doing them. Um, Played a decent amount. I think I got to Paragon 2250 or so last season. So I did play a lot, but that was my first season, whereas some other guys are coming into season 13 after doing or coming into doing 3 straight seasons of Rathma runs, and they're a little burnt from it. So I guess I'm a little different than that, but the meta, they're still in there. They're still great for RGKs. I got a decent Pestilence guy going for this season, and I got lucky once again with the Scythe of the Cycle, the main Rathma weapon. I got a primal on, I think, day 4, so sitting pretty good early season. At my 1 to 70 went okay, but the first night I didn't have a great plan for post 70 with my group, and I kind of played with a little more casual with some old friends coming back, and we got to 70. That was fun, but we didn't really plan on how we were going to go into speed GRs that first night. I got a little unlucky with some rolls and some drops. So
Cool.
back in it now, back in the mix.
Do you think Blizzard's going to make any changes for next season, or do you think they're basically done doing any of that?
It seems few and far between now, yeah. I don't know if they're officially in maintenance mode or really keep up too much with that, but I know they're obviously not bringing in revenue, so probably don't have a lot of their resources working on this game.
Well, you could argue the Necromancer pack brought them in revenue.
True, true. Yeah, I was happy to purchase that to give a little back, giving me lots of hours of enjoyment. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they would do though, really. I don't know if introducing another class would be right, or I don't know, doing a new game. I like the game now. It's fun. It could use some new content. It could use some shaking up, being that season 13 is the same as 12.
On that note, when you talked about bringing in another class, I always had a theory that they were going to release an expansion pack where they would up the cap from 4 players to 5. And the reason I thought that is because on the left side, when you have 4 people in your group, it like a 5th person would fit perfectly. Like they left just enough space to like fit that 5th portrait. So I always kind of thought there would be like an expansion, like one more expansion pack, but it doesn't look like it's coming. But anyway, so thanks for all that. Let's dive into Necromancer for this season 13. First, we'll go over kind of speed bounties. If a Necromancer wants to be efficient doing bounties, what would you recommend?
There's a few different builds, and I didn't really get into this season. Last season, I didn't farm bounties with a Necro. I used a Wizard. This season, I've done a few now, and I've gone with this Pestilence build. It's 5-piece with a Ring of Royal Grandeur. You're basically just trying to keep up your lands as often as possible by proccing Ingeom, and if you can kill elites fast, it just melts the screen and you're just moving Blood Rush as fast as you can click it. Works very well. If I'm in a group, I'll be wearing the gold wrap setup with an Avarice band. And if I'm solo, I kind of felt, depending on what I'm doing, a Vigilante belt and a Unity, I'd swap out for those 2 pieces and, then get the Unity buff, and I could play a little more carefree when I'm not getting gold, because bounties sometimes you're not killing and you're taking hits here and there. So you are fairly squishy with this build, but it's high DPS, high squishy, pretty glass cannon.
Mm-hmm. And somebody asked in chat, King Nick asked, you said it was an important choice this season. Do you think it's the best choice for this season as far as the character you chose, like a Necro to main?
If you don't have a Necro, period, you're going to fall way behind, obviously, with the XP grind. And then, there's just XP. The XP grind is still Rathma, so it revolves around 3 Necros in a group. So I don't know how unless you want to just be a spin barb, you need to have a Necro. And just spin barbing will drive you insane. I did that last season. I ended up getting elbow surgery. So I spent about a month straight of Z-barbing, and luckily I only had 1 arm to use, and it was the perfect class for a 1-arm build. But it's pretty brain numbing.
But just to clarify, you didn't need surgery because of like gaming too much or something, right?
No, probably sports.
Yeah. Okay, so let me segue this bounty build into what changes for regular rifts.
So for regular rifts, I started the season with an Arius regular rift build, kind of like a Corpse Mancer build, simply because that was what you get for the seasonal gift. And that went alright, but I more or less went back into this Pestilence build because it synergizes with the gear you're using is also going to be used for your solo push build, or most of the pieces at least. So I kind of stuck with this, same kind of deal. I needed gold, so I went Avarice, Gold Wrap, Boon of the Hoarder, and yeah, that worked. That's all I've been doing, and now I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm doing all my experience with a Necro, the XP runs, doing my solo pushes with a Necro. So I'm like, man, I should do something else for rifting because it's too much Necro. I need a little variance, otherwise it gets too grindy.
So is the build exactly the same for bounties and regular rifts?
Yes and no. When the season first started, I was switching to more of the solo GR build, which is a lot tankier. It involves using a curse and using Dainty's Binding. This build doesn't have curse, so it pretty much cuts your damage reduction in half.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we were doing T13 on that first weekend, I did switch to the the solo GR build, which is uses the curse, and it uses, instead of visceral impact on corpse lands, it uses brittle touch, and you're using Land of the Dead, frozen lands where everything's being frozen as opposed to shallow graves. And yeah, so it's a lot tankier, a lot safer. You know, if you go in, if you got to be the guy who's got to kill Malthael or Israel or one of the harder bosses, um, you know, you don't have to worry about it. One lands, they're toast. And even if you don't get it, you can curse them and kite around until it's back up again. Whereas this build, you got to be on your toes or you will you will die. And yeah, I mean, I'm exclusive hardcore, so there's a lot of good builds out there. I've browsed around at the start of the season. I saw Lord Fluffy has a bunch of good, bunch of different types of Necro builds, but you always kind of got to tweak those softcore builds just a little bit to make them work for hardcore. And you know, I always get a kick out of it when you see how awesome this build is and you watch their video footage and they're going through procking and they're playing just as headstrong, and then they die and like, oh, yeah, I only died a few times. It worked out pretty good. And that's obviously not acceptable in this. And then,
Yeah, I was watching a stream last night and they were doing rat runs on like 95s and dying like twice a rift, and I was like, man, that must be nice. I don't know what that's like.
yeah, well, I mean, I did play like season maybe 2 and 1 softcore, and it's fun, but the game gets stale for me. You don't have to manage the whole mitigation, survivability, toughness,
And
and
also saving backup gear and all that stuff.
yeah, oh, exactly. But I think it's great. Yeah, actually, you know, we had that group the other night where it was pure chaos, hearts pounding. You got a lot on the line, man. I got the gambler mentality where I like that adrenaline pump of you could win it all or you could lose it all. See how you handle the pressure, and hardcore just captures that for gaming for me. So it's fun. I like it's a same kind of deal with the solo pushes for this pestilence build. You know, you have to melt everything while you can, and then the other 40-50 seconds you just have to dodge your ass off and juke them with your footwork. So hard is going. Love it.
Yeah, I saved that clip on the stream. Okay, cool. So how about speed GRs? Like if you're doing, like if you're starting a gem from 0 and you want to upgrade it to like level 50 as fast as possible, what's the speed GR build for Necro?
Go call your demon hunter buddy.
Yeah, multi-shot demon hunter.
Yeah, let me pick your globes up for you and buff your speed.
Play ZDPS Necro and find a DH.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff out there, and I won't try and talk like I know the other ones, because you know, you play enough Necro in the meta, in the XP groups, that, you know, I do it with a wizard, my speed GRs. So this build is fine. I've been doing it this whole season. Said you just swap a few gems around. You're obviously not going to wear a gold wrap. You're not going to wear Boon of the Hoarder, Avarice Band. So you can put on a vigilante belt. You can put on a trapped or a, you know, trapped Gogok. You might not need your Gizzard. Just depends on if you got a group or not. I do prefer Unity if I'm solo.
So you're kind of saying speed GR isn't Necromancer's strength, but if you wanted to do it because you didn't have, friends to group up with, you could use this same build but just take off the gold wrap and switch out a couple gems and it would work pretty well.
Yeah, and there is, and that's with this pestilence setup. There is some Rathma stuff you can do that works pretty fast. I tried a little bit last season, this Speed and Arius build, but it relies on some high gems and it's a lot less strong. The Speed Singularity Mage, that was something I was looking into going this season, knowing that, you know, coming out the gate that second week, you want to be doing Speed 70s quick and get yourself geared up and get some gems going before you start into rats. And I just ended up getting the pestilence pieces first. By the time I got rat gears, it was time to, you know, go into GR90 rats. And like I said, I got that ancient Rathma, the Scythe of the Cycle weapon. So I got a head start on having a good rat on everyone else because you literally have a primal. So yeah, I mean this works. The problem is you have to just elite hop in certain maps like a sewers where you're running long periods of time in between elites, or if you just can't seem to find the elites, you'll slow way down. So the speed is variable, obviously like a lot of these builds because it is Ingeom dependent. I do have some really fast clears when I'm getting Ingeom procs and I'm finding elites, but if not, it gets brutal where you have to sit around and wait for your lands to come back up. It's something you don't want in a speed GR build.
That kind of reminds me of a Wanda Woe wizard.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's fun. I play a lot of Wanda Woe wizard as well. Just not, there's some other classes, like that speed barb, that raker Hoda barb, the IK raker. Doing some runs the other night, and then and it was 55-second GR 55s, and you literally can't keep up.
That sounds like a bell monk.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the fastest. I could be wrong on that. That I focus more on the GR solos and the Rathma runs.
Cool. Okay. So how about for group farming? What's the best kind of tips there? I guess we're kind of getting into the rat runs at that point, right?
Yep. Okay, so I've done it.
I'll switch over. I'll switch over. Let's first talk about the rat, the rat part of the rat run.
Sure. Let me switch guys. Yeah, I really, last season, my first season, I know some people are burnt from it, but I really like the way the rat runs go. I like how everyone synergizes off each other, and if it's going smooth, you're killing so fast, and if you're not going smooth, it gets ugly quick. Let's see, yeah, so here's my rat. It's my scythe to cycle. Just starting to do my Caldeson's Despair. I got that one to 100 yesterday, and I've got a few ready to attach to it today. But basically, as the rat, you're trying to get your damage reduction up in the first 5-10 seconds of the rift, and then from there you're going getting mages out, trying to maintain 10 mages and kill as fast as you can while the Z-Necro has everything frozen. And when that's going well, I mean it's hilarious how fast you kill things. It's pretty overpowered.
I don't see any gems on your rat necro. Is it Bane of the Trapped, Bane of the Powerful, and Zays?
It's enforcers instead of powerful.
Oh, that's right.
So you've got all your pet damage. Yeah. So I've been throwing them off, swapping them back.
Thanks for the follow.
Just until I'll get full sets for each character, but being early season, I've been switching back and forth. I haven't ran a rat since I did a solo push. Yeah, I got a.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm starting to see your gems now.
Yep. So I got 100, 2 traps, 100 and 100.
So yeah. So go ahead. Do your sentence.
Okay. So yeah, once you kind of get the concept of how you keep your damage reduction up with bone armor, with using your mages for the sets, the 4-piece set of Rathma that gives you damage reductions from your minions, which are your skeleton mages, and then constantly using your blood rush for increased armor. Once you kind of get the hang of that, then you start doing as much damage as possible, and then if you have a Z-Nec that you have good coordination with, you can trust that they're keeping everything locked down, so you can just go in pure DPS mode where you're jumping into the fray, jumping into Oculus rings. If there's no Oculus rings, you're getting as far away from the mob you're trying to attack for increased Zay's damage.
So it looks like the build is got to be physical because that's what the Singularity Mage is.
Yep, correct.
And is there any wiggle room on the passives? Like, what's kind of your decisions there on the passives?
I wouldn't really recommend, changing it. There's the Michael Jordan Diablo 3 disc. I saw him change Life from Death out. He used Frozen Lands last season without using Devour, to give himself some more flexibility and survivability. But for the most part, hardcore, you gotta have Final Service. I'd imagine they use it in softcore too, because the death would slow you down so much.
Mm-hmm.
Blood is power is great. If you lower your cooldown, you have Simulacrum up even more. When that thing's up, it's annihilation. And a point on that is you're definitely alternating with the other Necro in the group, the other Rat Necro, to do your Simulacrums. Um, I like to have the higher DPS guy start, and then 30 seconds into the Rift, the second DPS Rathma will use Simulacrum. And then from there, each guy uses it on cooldown, and it gives the group a pretty consistent uptime on Sim from one of the two rats, where you have consistent damage.
So it's better to stagger it as opposed to both of
Yeah.
you using it at the same time.
Yeah, there's no point in melting something and then waiting and then melting and waiting when you could just melt nonstop. And you have the similar concept with your convention of elements. I mean, you want to desync that. And that's what I do is I'll pull it off. You could look at the animation of the other rat. So if you're standing next to him, you could see where, I see yours right now. You can see mine. But what you want to do is take your convention off, let it set at full round, and then when the other rat Necro is halfway through physical, you put it back on, and that should give you a nice desynced convention of elements where you won't have to worry about your physical phases overlapping with each other. Cause, I mean, even it's pretty early season. We're doing probably GR 94, 95s. One rat Necro will kill a Rift Guardian, and during their physical phase, they have their mages up just solo. So, and you're talking probably no more than 2-3 seconds. So it's insanely powerful. So you don't want both guys being on physical at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You want to curse a lot. You want to blood rush a lot. That helps get that blood as power procs going. Obviously, the curse also helps with your damage reduction. Later in the season, when we get into doing 101s, 102s, you'll see groups who play together a lot, who've got really good synergy, who've got really good understanding of how, their Z-Neck plays the map, how their Bard plays the map, how their other Rathma focuses stuff down. They'll opt to take off the Dainty's Binding Belt and put on a Witching Hour, even more damage, because it's kind of like sports analogy. You don't need to play great defense if in basketball, if you score 150 points, you don't have to worry about, letting them score 110 because you're still going to smoke them. So same kind of deal. Great offense lets you get away with playing weak defense, and you are literally a glass cannon. So if you're going to proc either way, no sense worrying about the extra damage reduction from dainties. Might as well get, the other 10, 12, 13% from a Witching Hour.
Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to be like super lazy, could you switch out the curse for Aura of Frailty so that you're just constantly proccing the belt?
I'd say you could. I've never gone that route because I'm always wearing Zays, and if your Aura of Frailty is working, that means you're up close, and if you're up close, that means your Zay's not working.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually recommend against that. I know some people do it. If you're using dainties, and if you're just getting started, that ain't bad. You could put a esoteric alteration in for the Zay Stone, and you could run that way, and it's probably a great way to learn the build to get started. But as you get more comfortable with it, you want to get less defensive. And if you're being too defensive with the rat build, you're not killing stuff fast. And the worst thing you can do is not get the elites down before the Frozen Lands runs out and the mobs go on DR from Frozen Land. Then they're getting affixes out, then stuff's hitting you. Then it doesn't matter how much damage reduction you have, you're gonna get hurt. So
So the key is to just not be scared. You gotta just go for it and do as much damage as possible.
Yep, don't be scared, homie. Yep.
And when you typically are gonna have 2 rat necros in a 4-person speed farming group, do they have to use different curses?
Yep.
So that's something you have to coordinate with your team.
Right. Yeah, usually the first, when you get into a game with a rat, check out their gear, see what they got going, see what their curse is. One person's typically going to run Borrowed Time, Decrepify Borrowed Time. The other one's going to run Frailty, Scent of Blood. It's just the execute, so that speeds things up. Usually once your mage is sick onto something, they kill it, but every now and then you get a Jug, or you get a Rift Guardian, or you get just a couple packs at once where Frailty will help drop things fast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you'll switch your curses, switch your conventions, desync your convention, and make sure that you guys are aware on how you're going to do simulacrum, so you're not simming at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So as far as gearing, there's really not a whole lot of options. The Rylena is mandatory in the cube because it's 2-handed, and then the Scythe of the Cycle is mandatory for the weapon, and then your 3 rings, convention, Circle of Nyluge, and Crisbins. I'm assuming you just cube your worst one and wear your best 2.
Yep. Just go 2 out of 3 on that one.
Yep. Reaper Wraps mandatory because you have to generate the essence. The Haunted Vision's mandatory because of Simulacrum. And then really your only gear choices are your offhand and your belt, because you can elect for Witching Hour later in the season if you want to be a total glass cannon. And your offhand doesn't really matter. It's just a stat stick, correct?
Yep. Lost Time is the only one that actually gives you some benefit. It gives you some movement speed, which is nice to have for dodging stuff and for, moving along quickly with the runs. But it's not a game breaker if you don't have a good one. It's better to have the correct stats on it than to have a Lost Time.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people struggle with rolling Necromancer offhands. So what are you prioritizing when you're looking for maybe not the perfect, but a usable offhand?
Yeah. So I'd say I'd start with making sure you have Skeleton Mage damage and Essence on the secondary. And then Intellect, obviously, high damage range. My damage range on this one's a bit low. And then if you want to go more glass cannony, or if while my Paragon's low, I keep Invite. But ideally, later in the season, I'll have high damage range, Int, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, Skeleton Mage, and Essence. And that could be tough to roll.
So
not the end of the world if you're missing a few of those. But like I said, prioritize Essence, prioritize Skelly Mage.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Was if you're starting out, basically for it to be even usable, it has to have Essence as a secondary and Skeletal Mage as a primary?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And then for your third choice, for like a reroll or something, would you rather have crit chance or cooldown? If you had to choose between the 2.
On this one, I do have crit chance. As my damage is getting higher, probably have CDR. That having more sims or one more sim will just change. It literally doubles your damage, if not more. I don't know the math on that. So having a good cooldown is important. One thing I always think about is in a lot of these rifts, I don't know, 2/3 the rifts, you do get a channeling pylon. And if you sim prior to the channeling pylon, sim during the channeling, and right before it ends, you'll have simulacrum for a long time. You'll have, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, or there'll be a little bit of a reduction on that middle sim. So if you're doing rat runs in 2 to 3 minutes like you're supposed to, and you get a channeling pylon, a lot of that CDR is wasted. So I kind of go back and forth on what I prefer there. And I think that's probably why this one has CDR. I'm probably getting to the point with this character now where I'll roll that to CDR instead, just because everyone's kind of getting the hang of rat runs again. Everyone's getting a little more toughness. Everyone's kind of getting everyone's chemistry down. So, I don't intend on getting hit. I intend on killing everything while it's frozen. So, Invite doesn't do anything for that, whereas CDR and crit will.
Yeah, I got you. And did you already go over the order of operations right when a rift starts
No.
as a rat?
Yeah. So let's say you're wearing Dainty's bindings. What I do is I'll lead with a curse. So as soon as um, the Z-Neck engages mobs, you'll assume that they will instantly freeze things. So I lead with the curse anyways, because if you have nothing up, you'll instantly proc. And the majority of the procs happen first 10 seconds of a rift. So I'll lead with a curse. I'll make sure there's no elites around. If there's an elite, I'll make sure it's not electrified or juggernaut. Then from there, I will blood rush in. So at that point, I'll have curse damage reduction. I'll have armor from my blood rush. And now, knowing that everything's frozen and knowing that there's not a juggernaut elite and knowing that there's not electrified, I could be right into the mix with everybody, and I'll cast my bone armor dislocation, which you got to be fairly close to mobs. I don't know what that range is, 30 yards or so. And ideally, you're doing it in some density where you go right to 10 stacks. So at that point, you have um, you've got the bone armor damage reduction as well, and then I'll have full essence by then, and I'll cast my first bone mages, usually off to the side, so they start attacking trash quickly. And then within another second or so, if everyone's doing their job in our group, which is pumping out devour orbs and barbs picking up orbs, I'll be ready to cast my second one. And if I do this quickly, all that happens within about 3-4 seconds, where I'm at full DR. And then from there, I'm in damage mode where I'm looking for Oculus rings. I'm looking for elites to target, and we're off and running. At that point, as long as no one's procced, it's usually a pretty good indicator that the run is going to go smooth from there on out.
And just to clarify for newer players, when you talk about Oculus rings, it's because there's a support barbarian, and I think the Z-Neck wears one too, but they wear an Oculus ring, which procs a little circle on the ground, where if you stand in it, you get a pretty significant damage buff, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And yep. So usually one of them, it'll happen off that first trash mob that dies. So by the time you get all that stuff ready, you've casted your second round of Skelly Mages. Usually your Blood Rush is ready to cast again. It's, what is it, like a 5-second cooldown? Yeah, lowered by your CDR. So, 2-3 seconds, you're ready to Blood Rush again. And by then, there's usually an Ocu ring to jump into. So, assuming everything else is safe, yeah, it makes a big difference, and you see the difference, and you could kind of tell who the better rats are if you're looking for them on your screen, and they always seem to go from Ocu ring to Ocu ring circle.
So the sign of a noob or new rat run player would be someone who doesn't seek out those circles because they don't know any better.
Yeah, yep. And it makes a difference keeping everyone alive too. It's just pump your offense out that much more to kill the lead that much faster so you don't die. Whereas if you're scared, nervous, and tentative, you're staying back, you don't want to get in that Ocu ring. Well, now your damage isn't high enough to drop this elite in time. Now it's going to get hairy because he's going to get his affixes out and stuff's going to come thawed. And now it got a lot more difficult. So that when you turn the corner playing rat, you realize, man, be aggressive, be assertive, get in their face, kill this stuff as quick as possible, and trust that your Z-Necro, I don't like playing without communications because I want to know if the Z-Necros have an issue with his Land of the Dead. I want to just assume that he's always got it up. If I'm near him, everything's frozen. And if that's not the case, he has already told me verbally on voice comms, or if he tells me, hey, it looks like I might need a few seconds to build up some cooldown, I'll play accordingly. I'll back out a little bit. I won't be as aggressive. But if he doesn't say anything and I got good chemistry with him, I know, I could count on him and I could get in there. I could get in that Ocu ring, even though I'm sitting right next to an elite. And as soon as if the elite were to come thawed, he could swing and hit me right now. But I know that my guy's doing his job, so I'm gonna do my job.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, so the other side of the spectrum, the Z-Neck. I'm inspecting your character here. It looks like you've got or wait, that's the wrong one. Z-Neck. I can see it on your profile. You've already got your gems in there and stuff. So So for the Z-Neck, it looks like it's going to revolve around Ingium, Captain Crimson, Storm Shield. Do you want to talk about the Spear of the Lysander at all? I know a lot of people are kind of confused about that in the cube.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's just a random proc. Let me come to Acorn. Yeah, sometimes you'll go, a few 2-3 runs and you won't see anything, but when you get a random shrine like the cooldown reduction shrine, is that Empower, I believe?
I believe Empowered helps your resources and channeling as your cooldown.
Okay, yeah. So the channeling one's great because you're getting more sims faster for the rats, and then for the Z-Necro, it just makes getting your Land of the Dead uptime a lot easier.
But wait, I might be wrong because I was mixing up pylons and shrines. I think you're right.
Okay.
I think Empowered Shrine is cooldowns.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why they name it that way, but yeah, either way, I mean, there isn't a whole lot you could put in there that's really beneficial. So since this is a XP group, you might as well use the spear because when you do get the XP shrine, you're just being that much more efficient. So that doesn't happen as much as you'd like, but when it's up, it's something. So
something's better than nothing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, if somebody doesn't find that spear, or this is the first they've heard of it being useful, is there anything else you'd recommend in the cube for weapon, or is it just like?
I used to use I used to use a Born Sword instead, and then I'd cube the Ingium.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tweak some of your gear to get a little more 2-piece Borns. I believe gives 2-piece Borns with the Ring of Royal Grandeur gives you the a little bit more cooldown reduction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a few other stats I can't remember. But it's definitely something to do if you haven't found the spear yet. Most people have all the patterns to do the forging.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's probably a little bit more mitigation that way too. Borns adds some resistance, I think. Hey, look. Yeah, that's about. I've seen one other guy put a lost time in the cube for just getting them. You're always doing cold damage, so you get some more move speed, and that's pretty nice as a Z-Neck because you're doing a lot of positioning. You're always leading the group. You wanna hit the enemies head on so that when you do encounter enemies, they are getting frozen. So speed's important.
And I noticed Death Nova Blight is what you use to kind of help proc the Obsidian Ring, but I see a lot of people using Bone Spear instead. So, like, what's the deciding factor on which one's better there?
I don't, NCG likes using Death Nova Blight. I like Death Nova Blight personally because depending on what you're doing, if you're pushing a little higher or things get slower, you can change your standalone to Rigor Mortis, and then now you have some poison. That's you're reducing their attack speed. You're debuffing them already from the Death Nova. So I actually haven't used the Bone Spear. Does that debuff enemies at all?
I haven't used it yet this season either. So
Yeah.
I'd have to look at a Necro.
Yeah, I don't think it does. So I could be wrong there, but this is hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to use it anyways to get your Obsidian procs, then debuffing the mobs is better than nothing. And I would take that because you're just being defensive at that point. So 15% less damage, that decided it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess just the play style. I'm usually positioning myself, in the middle of a room or in between two elites or in front of the group. So having the AoE and not having to aim lets me focus more on Death Novaing in place near something, but then moving back and forth, getting my skeletons to jump back and forth on mobs. So I'll be cursor left, cursor right, cursor left, cursor right, and you could really move that cooldown of your Land of the Dead quickly and bring it back up if you're in trouble, or it's about to run out and you've got a long way where you need to get stuff frozen again.
And you don't even need to cast the corpse lance if you're permanent Land of the Dead, right?
Yeah, you don't need to cast it, except for it does when you do manually cast it, you get the rune from it, which stacks the crit chance. So what I recommend using it for, as you're starting, that's probably one of the last things you're worrying about. But as things become more comfortable for you, a great time to use it is on Juggernauts or Rip Guardians or just an elite that's not quite going down. I'll wait and I'll be looking at their health bar, and as soon as their health bar starts to move, it means that a Rathma has one of the two Rathma Necros has sicked a mage on it, and once they sick the mage on it, then you can hold down Corpse Lance and you can start lowering that or applying that crit debuff where that Rathma is going to have 100% crit, and you're just basically ensuring that thing dies even faster. So that's when you use it. But usually in speed runs, you're not killing really high content. You're doing content that you could quickly clear. So on a blue or on a regular yellow, you melt through it very quickly, and sometimes by the time you click on it, it's dead. So yeah, I pretty much just save it for jugs.
Cool. So it looks like the Halcyon's Ascent is what procs the strong arms.
Yep.
And it's 4-piece Pestilence, wearing 3 with the Ring of Royal Grandeur, 2-piece Captain Crimson to help with the cooldown, Ingium Storm Shield, Oculus, Obsidian, Grandeur. Yeah. So and then the Vigilante belt for the cooldown. So it looks like max cooldown because you're trying to keep that Land of the Dead up as often as you can.
Yep. Every slot should have, full 8 or 10 cooldown, and you want to get your Gogok of Swiftness going ASAP. Oftentimes when you start as a Z-Nec, you're hanging around for, 4 or 5 seconds on the first pack to make sure not only both Rathmas get all their damage reduction up, but you're also getting your stack reduced, because it gets tricky at the start before a Gogok is up and running to have enough cooldown to maintain your Land of the Frozen Dead or Frozen Lands.
All right, cool. Lastly, let's just go over real quick kind of the solo leaderboard pushing. I know, let's talk about your experiences so far. I know you were number 1 at one point. So how was that treating you, kind of pushing the solo Necromancer leaderboard?
Yeah, see, man, it's a lot of fun. It's it's a slight variation Pestilence right now. I know some guys have used Dragules. It seems like the Trags is a very similar playstyle. I haven't done it. Talked to a few guys. Basically losing out on a little damage for a little bit better damage mitigation. I've gone the pretty much cookie cutter. I'm sure it'll be the highest the highest push again this season, the same as last season, season 12.
And is Bone Ringer mandatory, or
let me swap for you
here? Or is the offhand a stat stick again?
No, this one's stat stick. Yep.
Okay.
And this stat stick cooldown is very important, because all your damage is being done during Frozen Lands. There's a little bit of variation you could do between in your rings. You could take Convention of Elements off and put on a Unity. You're obviously going to lose a decent amount of damage, and you're not going to be able to push as high early in the season. I think my rank 1 clear was early in the season, so I did it with a Unity because there's no sense dying early. But my last one I did, I think, what am I now? I was rank 2 the other day.
You're 3 now.
3 now. Okay. We'll have to address that later tonight. Yeah, it's a really neat play style. You're doing all your damage Frozen Lands, and you're synergizing that with, if you're using Convention Elements, your cold phase. And one more layer on top of that is your ideally, when you're starting your frozen lands, if you're really trying to be efficient, you're killing a mob. You're killing a white, typically a low health white trash mob right at the start of your phase, and you have an elite right next to it, so that white trash mob will spawn an Oculus ring from your Templar or whatever you're using as a follower. Then you can teleport into that Oculus ring, start attacking on the elite or whoever you're trying to kill, and then by the time you get into cold phase, if you've timed it right, you're in Oculus ring, you have full crit from the Brittle Touch, and elites just melt. You're just one-shotting elites during your phase. So you obviously can't. It's imperative when you actually go into frozen lands, you don't want to do it during cold phase because you need to do all those things prior. You need to get an Oculus ring to spawn. You need to get the crit debuff fully applied. And then, obviously you're doing sim prior. So I like to do it near the end of physical phase, but sometimes you kind of, it just depends on where you're at in the map and what you got chasing you. And it's a lot of fun. It's cool to have to do all that stuff to do damage. And if you mess up, you do about no damage. But if you do it right, you melt an entire elite on a map where pushing really high on.
So is that why you don't have crit on your bracers? Is because you're going to be stacking that crit damage on elites?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you see it in the helm too. You could go for either one of those. You can go life per second or armor. I don't know the math on it right now. My bracers, I didn't have the opportunity to go life per second, but while you're not in frozen lands, you're just dodging. You're grouping stuff up. You're scouting the map. You're seeing where the elites are at. You're trying to get things to come together. You're seeing where the pylons are at, and then you're coming up with a strategy in your head on how you're going to handle the next elites or how you're going to handle your next frozen lands. And you're watching your timers. You're watching your convention of elements and your simulacrum and land of the dead, and you put it all together. So it's nice to have that life per second. You're always using the gizzard gem, so you'll take hits and you'll get chunked down, but it'll come right back up with your life per second. You just got to not get hit too frequently. So you're doing a lot of dodging, and then by doing that and hitting your devour, you're getting your damage reduction from your pestilence. So armor's great, life per second's great from both those features. Just staying alive, because once it's time to do damage, you can do it real hard. It's the only other big important thing you'd talk about was the breakpoints. In a perfect world, you can get up to, I think it's a 2.01 or something, and it's basically attack speed everywhere on every slot, including your amulet. And I believe you can maybe have 6% roll. If you have that, it's crazy how many lances fly out when you're frozen landing and devouring.
And is there a way to test those breakpoints, or what did you mean by that?
There's some tables posted online. I think it's like 1.51, 1.71, and 2.01.
Okay.
So you wanna fall just above one of those breakpoints.
And where do you find that number?
You hit your details, inventory details, attacks per second. Right now, this guy's at 1.51, so it's not, it's the third highest breakpoint. It's nothing special, but I did make some gearing decisions around those breakpoints. I think I'm at the point where if any of my attack speed rolls were a little bit lower, I would drop out of this breakpoint. So that's something I don't want. And then getting some more attack speed right now wouldn't do me any good until I hit 1.71.
So you either have to, you want to be up towards like the bottom of a breakpoint, so you're not wasting a roll, right?
Correct. Yep. So.
What's up?
Hey, what's up? 1 second, Warrior. We're just finishing up here. We're doing a video. Okay, so I think that kind of explains. Is there anything else about the rat? It looks like you had, just 2 rubies, but I see some people go all ruby.
Yeah. That's just a personal preference. Kind of depending on what riff level you're going on, whether you're using Unity or not. If I had a Unity in, I'd be all int. Probably would be okay here. It's just, if things seem like it's getting a little too hairy, throw more armor in. If not, more damage. You basically want to get your damage to a point where if you're not able to one-shot an elite during a Frozen Lands, then that Greater Rift is too high for you. So you either need to come up with more damage, or put on your, no more unity at that point. If you can't kill an elite in one cycle, then you're not going to beat the Rift.
Okay, so if you can't kill the elite in one cycle of Frozen Lands, it's time to lower it or wait till you are stronger.
Yeah, yep, start augmenting or go get them Paragons with your rat. That's kind of that's the big barrier there.
Okay. And are there any RGs that you just have to run away and like abandon the Rift, or?
Nah. I mean, this is like a Rift Guardian killer. So far this season, I'm not too high yet, but yeah, I've one-shotted one-cycled every single elite. Or, excuse me, every single Rift Guardian, so it doesn't even matter who you are. If Lands is up, you're gonna die right away. It's a cool feeling. One-shot melt.
Cool.
Okay. There are some mob types you want to stay away from or that make it quite a bit more difficult, and that's, the spear throwers. Some of those bogan trappers are tough. A lot of other classes, the ranged mobs, they can get tough because you have to dodge for the majority of your Rift. If your Rift's going to take the full 15 minutes, you're probably dodging mobs for 11, 12 minutes of that. So it's a lot less painful if you're just dodging melee mobs because you're cursing them to slow them down, and you've got Blood Rush, so you can juke pretty easily. So that's really all I worry about avoiding. And then obviously Juggernauts too. Your Frozen Lands isn't going to freeze them, so they're not a good elite to set up on. So you're always cursoring over your elites as you approach them to make sure they're not jugs. If they're jugs, just go right on past them.
Oh, just avoid Juggernaut elites?
Yeah. Yep, avoid them.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think that covers most of what I wanted to cover. Did you have anything you felt like you missed or anything like that?
Oh, I'm sure I did.
Well, yeah, it's hard to make an 8-hour video and go into absolutely everything. So I'm sure something was missed, and that's okay. People can leave a question in the comments or something. So I was just wondering if there's anything big that you missed that you wanted to mention before I ended the video.
No, I don't think so. I think so, Joe.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for doing this with me. I know it was a little bit longer than usual, but there's a lot to talk about with Necro because they're involved in a lot of different builds and a lot of different things. So I appreciate you taking the time to go over it all with me.
All right, my pleasure.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Alrighty, that's going to do it for my video featuring BDP and going over Necromancer for Season 13. If you stuck around for the whole thing, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions about something we didn't cover, feel free to leave your question down in the comments. I'll do my best to help you out. So good luck this season. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Peace.